despite the festive period about to hit us here at Christmas and the run into 2023, here on SimRacing Unlimited, we're going to have a discussion, and it's a very, very important one because we've heard and also have a lot of the members of the SimRacing community that the IndyCar iRacing collaboration through the licensing is defunct as of effectively New Year's Day next year. It's myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and Yannik Haustein with you. Yannik, firstly, this is big news, isn't it?
Sure is. Breaking news too. We only just mentioned or noticed that during the live stream we were doing. That's why I'm still in the in the naughty Christmas T-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, iRacing pretty much the only title that gets oval racing right these days. With others trying but not being there quite there yet, I should say. And yeah, having a lot of the IndyCar tracks on their roster. So now that's pretty much gone, as I understood. So yeah, big news for the Indy community and also iRacing itself, of course.
Yeah, I mean the thing is that initially Greg West from iRacing, and we're actually going to put it on the screen now, and I'm going to read out what he has actually put. And this was and like literally we got this new I found out about this within the last we found out about this in the last 60 minutes. Greg West posted on the forum, our current license agreement with IndyCar is set to expire on December 31st, 2022. IndyCar has signed an exclusive license with another developer that goes into effect on January 1st, 2023. While we are still working on finalizing a new license with IndyCar, it is clear there will be some notable changes to the way that we are able to present IndyCar racing on iRacing. Most significantly, we will no longer be able to run an official IndyCar branded series, and there will not be an iRacing Indy 500. You will also see the removal of the IndyCar series logo from our sites. We plan to continue to support the Dallara race cars, the IR18, the DW12, and the Dallara IR05. There will be no changes, unlimited use and racing in regards to the non-IndyCar series at IMS for other series, NASCAR, IMSA, etc. Until the new license agreement is finalized, we won't know all the details, so there may be further changes. And then, courtesy of my good friend Ryan King, who now works with one of the bigger, so like I think it's Jalopnik now. I think he works for. He's actually one of their staff writers. He then posted within the last 15 minutes of us actually recording this video, and I'm now going to put that screenshot. They're saying that morning, afternoon, evening. I'm not too sure who this is from, but they said, unfortunately, today, I am the bearer of bad news. Per our announcement this morning, broadcasters are no longer permitted to broadcast races using the following three cars effective January 1st, 2023. We will forward an updated broadcast policy to help reflect these changes to you soon. I've also attached the forum post regarding this below. And it was the three cars that I have just mentioned, the IR18, the DW12, and the IR05. Before we start talking about this, there is one particular individual that I have to really, really mention, and it's VCO Simi Award winner for Best Commentary back in 2021, Arjuna Kankipati, who has been a stalwart for IndyCar broadcasting on iRacing. And his thread says it all, which is the news about an exclusive IndyCar license is a huge loss. 13 years of the iRacing Indy 500 and the community that it developed around it destroyed with one signature. I wouldn't have fallen in love with the 500 without iRacing. 2022 was my first, 2023 will be my second. Exclusive licenses are great for companies, terrible for fans. iRacing having to update a community-based schedule mid-season to remove IndyCar tracks shows this. I'm grateful that I was able to commentate on two iRacing Indy 500s. Who knows when I get the chance to do it again? And it gets worse. We can't broadcast or stream IndyCar on iRacing anymore. I'm just completely lost for words right now. So many great series and communities that now have to figure out what they can do to survive. And to hear it from one of the prominent IndyCar voices on iRacing himself, that just shows how hard it's hit.
Yeah, absolutely. And the timing also shows that there had to be at least a bit of hope to get this renewed. Because, like that post mentioned, now they have to reschedule everything in the middle of a season. So it doesn't look to me, at least, like they expected it to fall through. And also begs the question: who has the exclusive license now? That's probably the other burning question in this regard right now.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we did see that there was an IndyCar challenge, wasn't there, on rFactor 2 through Motorsport Games.
True.
So people are already pointing fingers at this. There's been Reddit threads, there's been threads on Twitter. There is a lot of activity, and there's a lot of people very, very disappointed for this news. And it's rightfully so, because IndyCar is a staple of iRacing. It's an American-based platform. So you're going to have your usual, like your IMSA with the IMSA Esports Global Championship that we saw courtesy of VCO this year. The fixed Indy 500, which has been great to watch. I mean, when I was at VCO, when I was at the VCO Race Sport Summit at Milton Keynes at a Simply Race earlier on this year, we had a few of the people from, so you had Will Vincent. Arjuna was commentating from home over in, and you also had Connery Maddock, who was also there in person. And there was a behind the scenes sort of thing, but they were commentating from their respective positions on the Indy 500 in February of this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a bitter blow, but I mean, Motorsport Games has not been without its own dramas. Let's be completely honest.
Yeah.
You mentioned to me about this before we recorded this video, that they've now got their NASDAQ compliance back. But the thing is that that's only one bit of the puzzle.
True. Yeah.
And the thing is that Motorsport Games' share price has dipped significantly over the past few years. Pretty much the entirety of the board, apart from I think it's Dimitri Kozlo, are no longer there because of difference of opinion and not wanting to be a part of it anymore, which I can understand. I'm wondering, has there been a string pulled by somebody else that has pulled the trigger and made this happen? But it's too difficult to speculate how much they paid for the license, and what does this mean for the future of IndyCar in sim racing? That's the biggest question.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I can only see it go two ways right now. Of course, there is Motorsport Games, which you mentioned, which actually had an agreement for a full IndyCar, like a standalone game, which I think was due to be released in 2022, but got pushed back to 23 officially. But then again, there's the whole Motorsport Games debacle. Can't really call it anything else at this point. That's been going on since basically the release of their first NASCAR title, I believe, which fell a bit on its face, to say it, to put it mildly. And you can't forget that rFactor 2 is part of this Motorsport Games umbrella, right?
Yeah.
So while technically I can see it go there, because rFactor supports oval races already, and I mean there's room for improvement, of course, but it's there, and they also have the current IndyCar in there with a bunch of tracks. It's still under that Motorsport Games umbrella. Now it could be that they said, all right, we have the official license for the game, which may or may not happen, who knows, but we might as well put that or give that to rFactor, because even if Motorsport Games should go under, not saying it will, but the possibility is there, that R Factor 2 gets picked up by someone else, and then gets continued support for that. Who knows? The other way I can see it going would be a certain Brazilian studio called Risa, which has retro Indy cars already in Automobilista 2 and a few tracks, and also was set to implement a current Indy car as of August, I believe, which they then held off of because they were in licensing talks with the IndyCar to actually put it officially in the game. Now, or in the sim, I should say, before I get crucified. That could be the other direction this is heading, but big but in that case.
We're not talking about Kim Kardashian on that front, folks. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I noticed it the second I mentioned it. Whoops. Anyway,
yeah.
To make this happen, I think the multiplayer aspect of Automobilista 2 has to improve dramatically still. I mean, it's playable. We have our own league in there. That works usually, but there's still some functions are missing or lacking. Like you can't do driver swaps, which obviously wouldn't be a thing in IndyCar, but still it would be various quality of life improvements that would be needed to be made to make this work in a way that IndyCar would actually, I think, support it. This might come in steps too. I mean, there might be content released here and there, and then you have like in Q3 or Q4 of 2023 have those multiplayer improvements implemented. But for the bigger impact, I think it would be better to have it all together. Have the announcement. We've got IndyCar here. We've got the improvements. Now you can race ovals online with friends, like working perfectly fine and everything. Which might be a reason why Risa has been quiet for the last few months. Who knows? But I'm really excited to see how this plays out. But that's the two places I can see this going.
What I don't want to see is exactly what we've seen with the British touring cars, where there was a game plan by MSGM, and there's just been a quarter 1 2023 drop with the Porsche Carrera Cup car, the 991, and also the Vauxhall Astra, or Opel Astra, as you would know in Germany and continental Europe. Part of the Vauxhall brand being part of the Stellantis group, formerly known as PSA. There's my automotive industry knowledge coming out right there. But what I don't want to see, and I have to 100% agree with you, that if it is going to be an IndyCar package, it has to be all or nothing. It can't be I'm not going to use the words half-baked, but an unfortunate half-hearted thing from Studio 397. I mean, as soon as Marcel Offerman's left Studio 397, they have not been at the peak of what they were. I'll be completely honest. But that's nothing against Studio 397. They are still providing content. They are still providing new cars for people to drive, new tracks, which is fine. True. But as Yannick said, they've got to do it. If Risa take over the IndyCar side of things, I'm going to be interested to see what happens. But I think with how it has now affected the IndyCar community, that they can only drive those cars for another 10 days before that's it. You can't use them. There won't be any support. Those cars will be pulled. The tracks will be pulled. And there is nothing that you can do when it comes to iRacing to trying to fill such a black void as IndyCar will leave behind. Yeah, it's true. Like you mentioned, it has a huge following. Not just the fixed oval series, which I've tried for the first time myself this year at the Indy 500. Good fun until I crashed out in lap 47 or something. Oh, you got somewhere. But also on the road side of things, many people said this the Dallara IR18 was the most fun car to drive in iRacing. And I tend to agree. It's a blast, really, especially if you have the force feedback capabilities to at least approach the actual steering forces. This thing is intense. So I can totally see why it's a fan favorite, if you will, and also why it's now huge news
in a bad way that it won't be there for much longer, which is kind of crazy to think about, because you would have to think that if it's an exclusive license, like you said, then it has to be the full package. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense to, pull back everything from everywhere else. So who knows? It's going to be an interesting few days. I think there's going to be a major announcement in that regard very soon, because, license up by the end of the year.
Yeah, so expect some news to be coming through, probably on any particular social media channel after Christmas, but heading up until New Year, or Sylvester, if you know it as that. We'll be keeping our eyes peeled. But folks, we want to hear from you people out there. So put your comments in the chat. Let us know what you feel about this breaking news that has developed over the last 2 to 3 hours about IndyCar leaving iRacing. And on that note, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to follow us on the relevant social media channels. Links in the description down below. And you can head to simracing-unlimited.com, our official website. We'll see you all in 2023. Thanks for watching.
Take care.